Hey everybody, it's Mike from Electric City Sentai DenziCaster, and this week on the DenziBlitz, it's part 5 of our 5-part look at Power Rangers Dino Charge. Folks, it is the finale. It is part 5 of our 5-part look at Power Rangers Dino Charge here on the DenziBlitz. That means that we are checking out Disc 5, Volume 5, if you bought the individual DVDs, which is titled Hero. Last 5 episodes of the season. Realistically, it's the last 4 plus the Christmas special. So what we're looking at today is world famous in New Zealand, Deep Down Under, Wishing for a Hero, and One More Energem. And then the Christmas special, Race to Rescue Christmas. So here's the long and short. We're back to needing to watch every episode. The entire 5th disc, with the exception of Race to Rescue Christmas, frankly, you can more or less do without that one. You need to watch everything. They're all essential. This is the basically the Purple Ranger saga. One thing about Kyryuger, the Japanese show that this is based upon, Kyryuger had ultimately 11 different Rangers. If you count the Death Ryuger, the evil Kyryuger from one of the movies, whose Judenchi was later used to create Kiryu Navy in one of the specials. I think it was called 100 Years After or something like that. However, having that many characters, that many different Rangers in the Japanese version, they didn't necessarily go on this multi-episode quest saga for each one. Here, we are kind of setting up a pecking order. Each of the main 5 Rangers here in what is effectively Season 1 of Dino Charge gets their own focused episode at some point. We actually have seen the origin of each Ranger, which I really, really enjoy. Some have gotten more focused than others. The additional Rangers that join the team get more of a multi-part saga, more of an episodic saga, or a serialized saga than their counterparts, which again, I really dig. So we basically have, just as we more or less had, once you add them all up, probably about 5 episodes that led up to the reveal of the Gold Ranger and his joining the team. Here we get 4 episodes leading up to the Purple Ranger joining. Quick synopses. World famous in New Zealand. There is a UFO sighting in New Zealand by essentially the local crackpot, a character named Albert Smith, who claims to give Bigfoot tours and to have lost his eye to a giant octopus or squid, I forget which one he calls it. And that he has done all these outlandish things, has the horn of a unicorn and all this other stuff. But in reality, he's really just the local crackpot trying to make a dime off some rubes. But he really has seen these UFOs and has sold pictures to newspapers, and they've gotten published. So the Rangers see these photos that have been circulating around various newspapers, and winds up going to New Zealand to find this guy and see what's what, basically. So that kind of is the setup. When they get to New Zealand, these UFOs, which the Rangers realize are actually Sledge's transport pods, they realize that Sledge has sent his minions there to seek out something, they know not what. In reality, it is the Purple Energem. And so the Purple Energem, they eventually, as they're doing their seeking and searching, the Rangers are, they find the Purple Ranger, who apparently has already bonded to the Energem and has already figured out how to morph. As it turns out, the Purple Ranger is Albert Smith, the local crackpot with a police scanner, who has more or less used the Energem to become a local hero. But by the end of the episode, he realizes that he's not cut out for this and surrenders the Energem back to Keeper, where we find out that the Energems can be unbonded. They can break the bonds to a person through Keeper's staff. In Deep Down Under, the bad guys have realized that if the Purple Ranger has been awakened and has morphed, then that means that the Purple Ranger's Zord is also awakened. Which leads us to this interesting idea, because the Ankylo-Zord was awakened too in an earlier episode. Maybe the Aqua Ranger has already found his gem, and maybe he can already transform. But in Deep Down Under, we wind up with the Rangers seeking the Plesio-Zord while the evil forces of Sledge are trying to destroy it before it can ever wind up in the Rangers' hands as a weapon. In Wishing for a Hero, the Purple Energem is now safely in the hands of the Power Rangers, and they have to find someone that can wield it. So they set up this convoluted, staged trap where Miss Morgan is in danger, and people have to continuously save her, hoping that one of the heroes that saves her might be worthy of the Energem, and they may find the Purple Ranger through a little bit of subterfuge. Ultimately, however, Sledge and his minions are able to capture the Purple Energem. They finally get one, and you find out why they should never have one throughout this, because basically Sledge is going to wind up using the Energem to create a weapon. So the episode more or less ends with the Purple Energem in Sledge's hands and him vowing that the Rangers are now going to find out what it feels like to face the power of an Energem rather than to simply have it for themselves. One More Energem is the season finale. We get a climactic battle between Tyler, Dino Charge Red, and Sledge on the bridge of Sledge's starship. The Purple Energem is on the ship, as is now, once they've created the weapon, using the Purple Energem's power, Sledge has also been able to steal the Red Energem right from around Tyler's neck. So he takes the Red Energem, he flees back to his ship. Miss Morgan, seeing no choice, smuggles herself onto one of the transport pods and goes back to Sledge's ship herself, along with basically a remote control car, a little android or a little droid they've created that's programmed to seek out Energems. And if you look at it carefully, you can see pieces of Tenso from Power Rangers Megaforce were used to create this little thing, it appears. But get back to the ship, and it's essentially an adventure where not only is she trying to find the Energems, she's also trying to find Keeper, who has been kidnapped by Sledge, who says, you know, he's going to make it slow, but he's going to destroy Keeper once and for all time. After he actually manages to defeat Keeper in battle. So aboard the ship, the Red Energem is being used to change the Magna Laser into a full-on destructive weapon, and the Purple Energem is being used to recharge Sledge's new hand cannon, and the Rangers smuggle themselves aboard now, including, in order to find Kendall and Keeper, Tyler, who can't morph, he has no Energem, he has no powers, along with Shelby, use the Plesio-Zord to travel into space and get onto Sledge's ship. Of course, obviously, by all is said and done, the droid comes through, we save the day, we stop Sledge, we destroy his ship, or at least we crash it, and we wind up with um, we wind up with Miss Morgan as our Purple Ranger. Turns out she was the hero that the Inner Gem needed the entire time, and she just had to prove it. We also wind up in Wishing for a Hero, so we'll backtrack an episode here. We also meet a new villain, a very human villain, named Heckle, who is incredibly powerful enough that Sludge has him in solitary confinement. And this is the thing that Sludge has had in solitary confinement the entire season. And apparently is the reason that everyone is petrified of being put in solitary confinement, because it means they would wind up in the cell with Heckle at some point. So it's a really interesting character. He basically tries to set himself up as the hero for the Inner Gem, and it almost works. Kendall almost hands him the Inner Gem to see if he can, if it will choose him. So, all things told, 4 really good episodes. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I'm gonna skip Race to Rescue Christmas entirely. It's a Christmas special, which basically serves as a flashback recap episode of the entire season through a framing story of Poisandra and Curio and Wrench stealing Santa's naughty or nice computer. Apparently he doesn't keep a list anymore. And Santa Claus is real, and Santa Claus has a direct line to the Power Rangers. He's actually able to break into their comm frequency himself. That episode you probably don't have to watch. So let's take a look here at the likes and the dislikes out of these episodes. Number 1, really like the introduction of the Purple Ranger. I think they played it up very well. It's not as dramatic and doesn't have the same type of backstory and development that the Gold Ranger did, but I appreciate that, because if you had done it again the same way, it wouldn't have felt as unique. It wouldn't have felt as special. I like the idea of them having the old man as the Purple Ranger first. In Kiryu Violet initially is the scientist that develops the Judenchi and the Gabo Revolver, as they refer to it in that show, the Morpher. He's the one that created these things, and so he is initially, he's this broken down old man who still morphs and still will go out and fight, but his health is failing him, and he winds up passing the powers onto his daughter. Or granddaughter, I forget which, that becomes the new Kiryu Violet. She herself a brilliant scientist. In this, we have the Adventurer, who is the Purple Ranger, who surrenders his powers once he realizes he can be a hero. That's the first thing, is he thinks himself a coward, but realizes, oh wait, I can be the hero. If I really try, and he actually does. He saves Tyler, he's able to use the powers, he's able to do everything. But he realizes that it's not his place to be the Purple Ranger, and Keeper even comes to him once he's resolved himself to surrender his power back to the Rangers. The Keeper shows up and says, your role was to protect the Purple Inner Gem, and you have done that. Thank you. And so we find out that through Keeper's staff, the Rangers can have their bonds to the Inner Gems broken, so the Inner Gem can then choose a new host, a new bearer of its power. So I enjoyed that episode. It was very fun, and it establishes the Purple Ranger. Deep Down Under is essentially a focus episode on Shelby, on our Pink Ranger, but at the same time, it serves to introduce the Plesiozord. And so I like this motif of introducing, and I don't know that you could do it with any other season. It's kind of unique to a show that has lots of auxiliary Zords, of introducing the Ranger powers and the Zords separately. It to me makes each feel a little bigger than they would separate. But we get, like I said, sort of a focus episode there, and we get an introduction to the Plesiosaur. There's a subplot in the episode that revolves around an archaeologist who is sort of the greedy, fame-hungry guy. I don't know what I think about that. That felt slightly contrived in certain places and very cliched in others. And so that part was what it was. It was done well, but it just didn't feel quite right to me. It makes sense in that Shelby is a fan of dinosaurs, that she would follow archaeology and she would know who this scientist is, but that's really about as far as it goes. Then Wishing for a Hero has a pretty unique monster of the week. It's a wishing monster. Make a wish, write it on a slip of paper, it comes true, but in the worst way possible. And so while all the other Rangers discover this by wishing for certain things and it just going awry, Miss Morgan, Kendall, realizes it too, but she doesn't see the turns out horrible part. She just sees that the wishes are coming true. She's not there when everything heads south for the different Rangers and their wishes. So she wishes for a hero to show up that can become the Purple Ranger, and enter Heckle. Heckle is a character, I appreciate the fact that they set him up very well. Unless I'm horribly mistaken, as I recall, he pretty much starts season 2. He starts Supercharge as the main villain. Heckle is a very interesting character. You can see some confliction in him in the episode. The actor playing him does a pretty good job. Has a unique look. And you can see where they took certain things from Go Busters, which was the show that actually preceded Kyuryuger in Japan. We skipped that season for Power Rangers here in the US. But Go Busters had a villain named Enter, who wore goggles and spoke in certain tones and a lot of French, and had, sort of this European flair to him in places, and very dramatic dress with the long coats and things like that. Sort of Matrix-y to a point, cyberpunkish. They don't go that direction here. It's more almost like a steampunk aesthetic, but it's still sort of the long coats and the spiky hair with with a colored streak in it, and the goggles and things like that. So there's lots to him that does remind me of Enter to a point. But even Sledge fears him, even though he's not going to outright say it. You just get that vibe. And he's powerful enough to take down any and all of Sledge's minions. In fact, the only way Sledge manages to put him back in the cell when he has resolved himself that he is not going to work with Heckle, even though at first he lets him out to give him a shot, it requires the power of an Energem. He actually has to use the Energem hand cannon that Wrench has created in order to put Heckle back in solitary confinement. It's the only way he can do it. So, it's an interesting way to introduce that character. You really get the sense when you see him that you haven't seen the last of him. There is a season 2. But I like the way they introduced him and got his face out there, and you get to see him. So I appreciated that. And then one more Energem. The episode is just cool from beginning to end. And the reveal of Miss Morgan being the Purple Ranger, that the Energem chooses her, keeper, kind of acting like he knew it would all along. So all in all, this batch of episodes I really enjoyed. I thought the finale fight, the season finale against Sledge, was probably a little less epic than it could be. Most of the Rangers are preoccupied fighting Greenzilla, which reminds me, you can go pick up your Big G style DenziCaster shirt with our alternate logo over at cafepress.com, inspired by Godzilla. It happens to be a green shirt, but Greenzilla, not the most imaginative name, Chip Lynn, or whoever wrote this episode. But the rest of the Rangers are preoccupied fighting this gigantic monster, which is actually one of the monsters, I think, I want to say it's one of the forms of D-Boss from Kyoryuger. I think it's actually one of the forms of the final bad guy from the series. But they wind up fighting this thing and getting trounced for the most part. But at the same time, they're essentially buying time for Kendall, Tyler, and Shelby. It's their episode. So I really enjoyed the fact that you have the setup. It's on the ship, but like I said, it felt a little anticlimactic, the actual fight between Tyler and Sledge. I kind of wish there'd been more to it, and hopefully they deliver on that in Supercharge. Final thoughts for the season, which is not something we typically say here on DenziBlitz, because we don't typically do multi-season shows. But final thoughts on the season. Very well done. You guys set me up proper for this one. Y'all got me a good one when y'all picked Dino Charge for me to watch. So very little that I didn't like throughout the season. And anything I didn't like was almost entirely tied to the source material. The difference between Kyoryuger and Dino Charge is night and day. And so when adapting a show that has a lot of ridiculous elements like Kyoryuger, and that's not saying ridiculous as in bad, because I enjoyed Kyoryuger. I thought it was a really cool show. But when you have something that has such a over the top, which I know is a phrase I've used a lot during this 5-part run, that has such an over the top feel as Kyoryuger, and really does go high end with everything on the ridiculous haha funny scale. And then you have a show like Dino Charge, which definitely has a more serious tone. You wind up with some of the things that you are stuck adapting just not meshing as well. And that's what's happened here. So, anything that I didn't care for was almost invariably tied to they were stuck with what the source material gave them in places. They didn't use every goofy Judenshi. They didn't use every goofy power. They used what they had to, but when they had to, it really just had a tonal feel to it that doesn't necessarily mesh. Beyond that, that's the one complaint I have about the season. Everything else was fantastic. I enjoyed the actors. I enjoyed the characterizations. I could do without all the talking during the fight scenes. There's an awful lot of talking during fights, and that's just something Power Rangers does. We always have to remember it's a kid's show at heart. So I'm 36. I am not the target audience for this, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy it. It just means that there's going to be certain things that are aimed specifically at the kiddies that I'm not going to care for because it wasn't aimed at me. So all in all, very good season. It probably falls, if I'm honest, this probably would actually wind up in my top 10 Power Rangers seasons of all time, if not higher at this point. It was that good. Supercharge could completely scuttle that, because I think of them as one season, as one arc of the show, even though it was split up over 2 years. And frankly, not a lot of fluff in this run. I mean, if you go through, there's 22 episodes if you count the Christmas and Halloween specials. And realistically, you don't need either special. We'll say that. So I'm going to actually take those out. There's 20 episodes, not counting the specials. As I'm looking over the list and kind of remembering, there's probably 1, 2, maybe there's either 4, there's 4, maybe 5 non-essential episodes in the entire season. 25% or less of the show being filler is not bad. And even those filler episodes will have little moments that are worthwhile to watch. So, hey, Saban Brands, Chip Lynn, the cast Dino Charge, y'all did good. This was very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to watching Dino Supercharge, which we're going to start next week here on the DenziBlitz. So check that out. We're going to do Dino Supercharge in 4 parts because it was a 4-disc set. So we're going to take that one 5 episodes at a time, I do believe. Going to be a lot of fun checking that out. I'm honestly looking forward to it because I know the rest of Kyryuger. I know we haven't seen all the Rangers yet. So I'm looking forward to see what do we do with Silver and what do we do with Aqua. And there's some characters from Kyryuger that I'll be very surprised if there's not a counterpart to them, like Torin, because it's a suit. So I'm going to be very shocked if we don't get some variation of Torin over the course of this. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And of course, since next week starts Supercharge, that means in 5 weeks, we will start Space Sheriff Scheider. We will return to the Metal Hero Saga, and we're going to check out the 3rd of the Space Sheriffs. I still haven't found Charivan. If Ruslig, if you're out there watching, I'm sorry. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to find Charivan so we can check that one out too and do the whole Space Sheriff trilogy here on the DenziBlitz eventually. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time when we pick up Dino Supercharge, please remember, if you want to help us out here on the ECS Network, you can jump over to our Cafe Press store. It's cafepress.com/ECS Network. Pick yourself up a cool t-shirt, such as our Big G-style DenziCaster shirt here, or the Space Sheriff shirt, or we have a Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon inspired shirt over there now as well, and a Johnny Sacco and his Flying Robot shirt inspired. It's if you want to pick up the QQV medal, remember, ask for it by name. So says Joe Gibgon's homeboy. So check those out. Every bit of that goes to help the network. We don't pocket any of the money. We need lights. We need cameras. We need lots of stuff. You guys can help, and you have. So, please keep it up. We appreciate it. You can also help us out by clicking the subscribe button here on the page. That helps us out a lot too. And don't forget to thumbs up if you like the video. Leave some comments below. Tell us what you think of Power Rangers Dino Charge. Is this really one of the best seasons of Power Rangers? Because I'm kind of thinking it is. So does it really fall into that high echelon of company, or does it not? You tell me. So folks, until next time, we're going to be checking out Dino Supercharge in 7 days here on the DenziBlitz. I'm Mike, and I'll see you then.